Good evening, everyone. I'm Akushla Pinder. It's good having you back with us. We begin tonight with news that another 2 bodies were recovered in Abaco, bringing the death toll following Hurricane Dorian's passing to 67. NEMA officials confirming that figure today during a press briefing. Now, we're to have more from that press briefing in a later newscast. National insurance workers, meantime, on work to rule. This, of course, following the results of Friday's strike poll. Public Officers Union President Guion Rowe claims that of the 406 of his members who voted, 226 here in New Providence, 27 in Freeport, and 3 in Rock Sound, Eleuthera, all went with yes. And this despite Labor Director John Pinder's claims there were some illegalities with the poll.
We've bent over backwards, we've rolled up our sleeves, and we've dug in to be disrespected. So now it's time to kind of reduce the pace a little bit, and we will go from there.
According to Mr. Roach, they were to have a meeting with the minister today, but that was postponed due to scheduling conflicts. Yet he says he's not optimistic about the outcome.
We'll see what comes out of it. We're only going forward on the way we've been treated in the past, and the minister has not been helpful. I understand he said he was unaware of the failed negotiations, but we'll see what comes out of this meeting tomorrow.
In the meantime, our news team reached out to Mr. Pinder, who refuted claims the union was unaware the strike poll was postponed. He does admit, though, that it came at short notice.
Because I never told him until about 12 o'clock that Thursday. The vote was either Friday, so he had short notice. If he says that, I can accept that. But if he says he had no knowledge, then he probably is trying to indicate that he didn't have sufficient notice. But I advised him, and the minister advised him.
The Labor Director says the union can reapply with the Department of Labor to conduct another poll, but that the 2 sides are close to inking a deal.
The board has finally appointed some senior negotiator to negotiate the contract for him. So I think the director has withdrawn herself from that negotiations and allow a consultant negotiator or some negotiator they hired, I think, to go ahead and try to conclude those discussions.
For its part, the National Insurance Board is calling on the unions to de-escalate this matter in order to seek an amicable solution. In a statement to this effect, NIB says no party achieves all it wants, but instead a middle ground can be reached. Mr. Roach tells us the industrial action will continue as long as it takes or until negotiations for a new industrial agreement are complete. In other news this evening, the Bahamas slips on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business ranking. What was a 118th spot out of 190 economies has dropped to a 119th ranking this year with a doing business score of 59.9. Now, as usual, the analysis considered how easy it is to start a business, hire workers, deal with construction permits, get electricity, register property, pay taxes, trade across borders, obtain credit, and resolve insolvency. In terms of starting a business, the Bahamas scored 87, 76.7 on electricity, and paying taxes 81.7. Its 2 worst scores, registering a property at 30.8 and getting credit at a score of 30. All out of 100. Meantime, the opposition's deputy leader has his own take on what should be done to improve the Bahamas' ranking. Chester Cooper suggests the government immediately appoint an ease of doing business czar who would focus on those categories where the Bahamas slid or where there is an obvious need to improve and formulate policies and legislation to address it that can be implemented within the next 6 to 9 months. While Mr. Cooper acknowledged the country's drop is not precipitous, he says it is noteworthy given that other countries in the region are implementing reforms allowing them to climb the index. Now, Mr. Cooper contends that in a global marketplace, the Bahamas must stand out as being open for business and ready to work with local and international partners. New Zealand had the best score this year, having the lowest number of procedures required to start a new business, as well as the shortest time to start a business. Singapore, meantime, had the 2nd highest score. The World Bank found that the top 10 improvers in this year's index include Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Togo, Bahrain, Pakistan, Kuwait, China, India, and Nigeria. The worst countries on the planet for doing business are said to be Venezuela, Eritrea, and Somalia. While Baker's Bay Golf and Ocean Club Resort's closure coming as no shock to the Director General of Tourism, who says She knew Hurricane Dorian's widespread destruction and devastation would pose a challenge for hotel properties on battered Abaco and Grand Bahama. Still, Joy Gibberlew's optimistic that the multi-million-dollar Great Iguana Key Club will be back, better and stronger upon reopening.
For us, from a tourism standpoint, that speaks to the fact that when they open, they'll be opening with excellence. It's also an opportunity, and we're having conversations within the Ministry of Tourism of how do you build back better. So we're hoping that within that 18 months that not just Baker's Bay, but all those properties that are closed, we'll look at how do we build back using renewable energies, looking at sustainable tourism, and building to withstand hurricanes, the strength of which we've just seen. So while of course it hurts because we know the amount of people that will be impacted.
The Ministry of Tourism spent the last several weeks pushing the message that despite Dorian's destruction, 14 islands are still open for business. And according to Mrs. Gibberlew, you can up that number by another one as 80% of Grand Bahama's tourism is back. Smaller boutiques in East Grand Bahama were lost and hotels in Freeport were damaged, but those in the second city were able to open their doors, and so will the Grand Bahama International Airport come November 15th.
Our airline partners are in this with us. They're saying as soon as the airport opens, they will be back on the ground. But with the ferry service continuing into Grand Bahama, with the cruise line traveling to Grand Bahama, this has ensured that there is a way for people to get, certainly outside of the Bahamas, into Grand Bahama. I'm so delighted, over a week ago now, Port Lucaya opened up. Taino Beach, you're seeing a lot of posts, social media posts of people having a first-rate experience on Taino Beach at the port. Our Lucaya's opened up again, so we're just really pleased to be able to say, yes, Grand Bahama for the most part is up and running.
Meantime, Grand Bahama's Viva Wyndham is due to reopen December 10th. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.